I'm joined now by our reporter in Durban, Lethiwe Mdluli, who's been out and about today speaking to business owners. Lethiwe, thank you so much for joining us. So you have been around, you've spoken to a lot of people. One of the things that's becoming clear is that we're kind of almost used to levels 1 and 2 of load shedding, which is just a few hours a day. But as soon as we hit the levels 5, which we're on now, which can be up to 9 hours a day, we really see the impact on businesses. How tough are business people in Durban finding it all?
Well, Sally, it's very, very tough. Some of the businesses that I spoke to today were saying that they have to sometimes shut down for about 6 hours because of the extreme hours that load shedding is taking. And of course, they are losing money. But not only that, some people have had to lay off people just because they are not making enough profit to keep employees in their business. So it's affecting everyone, and frustrations are definitely running high. I also spoke to just general people about how they've been dealing with stage 6 load shedding for the past week, and they were saying that they can't even make plans on their lives, basically, because you don't know when the power is going to go out and you don't know when it's going to come back on. Most people, of course, are also working from home due to COVID-19, and those people are affected because you can't work if there's no lights. So a lot of people, a lot of South Africans are very frustrated, but when it comes to businesses, it's very, very painful to see someone losing their job because they can't be paid at the end of the month because their business is not making enough money because they have to shut down for a certain amount of hours every day due to the load shedding. And a lot of employers that I spoke to today were sharing that it's very difficult when they have to tell their employees that they can't pay them at the end of the month because they didn't make any profits. Some businesses have had to invest in buying inverters so that they can keep their businesses going during those hours where there's load shedding. So that money alone is something that they don't have. You don't budget for something like that. And during these times, a lot of businesses, especially in KZN, they've been trying to rebuild coming from COVID-19 and then the July unrest and obviously the floods that took place in April. So while you're trying to rebuild, you're trying to make more money and you're trying to employ more people, and now there's load shedding. So it's really, really affecting them. And I spoke to a few businesses a bit earlier on, and these were their views.
We didn't have electricity from when was it, on Tuesday, I think, and it only came back yesterday, 7 p.m. So you'll just understand the frustration that we had. We have got a little baby in the house who's only 4 months old. So as an adult, you can have maybe bread and sleep with bread, but this child is being fed formula only and relies on this formula. And to make formula, you need boiling water. So it was really quite difficult.
Also, you've spoken to people around schools and clinics, which is also a very serious matter. What are they saying?
Well, Sally, for a lot of schools, they were sharing that it's almost exam season. So for pupils, they have to learn, they have to keep the lights on so that they can study. A lot of schools are using computers, they're using laptops, and of course you need electricity for those kind of equipment. And they are saying also with the network issue, a lot of pupils aren't able to connect, they aren't able to speak to their teachers, so it's very difficult for them to carry on with teaching and learning while there is load shedding. Now, the issue with hospitals is the fact that a lot of hospitals are now having to rely on generators so that they can carry on servicing people. I spoke to the union, the PSA here in KZN, just to get a reaction from them about this load shedding and how hospitals have been affected. And they were sharing that a lot of issues that they are seeing now is that the Department of Health has had to redirect some funds in order to keep those generators working, to buy diesel for the generators. And redirecting funds is already affecting the health sector because there's a shortage of nurses, there's a shortage of doctors, and that money is now having to be redirected into servicing load shedding, which is affecting a lot of patients. Basically, they are saying that government needs to do something about this, ESCOM needs to do something about this because it's affecting your everyday South African. While speaking to the union, the PSA, a bit earlier on, this is what they had to say.
So you'll recall that most of the hospital have generators, but those generators, to run the generators for 4 hours, it means that they must move budget that was meant for compensations of workers and other critical service. So it affects them in a big way. It affects negatively because not only hospital, clinics do not have the generators and backup. So the staff that work during night shift, it affects them negatively. And also it has an impact because some of the staff that's supposed to be in report on time on duty, due to traffic and other thing, it has those particular impact. That's why we believe, as PSA in the province, that hospitals should be exempted from load shedding. They should have a plan because they deal with emergency service. What do you do when you have to run a generator for 4 hours? Even ESCOM cannot be able to cope with particular expense. Department of Health need more funding to be able to employ contract workers, to be able to improve the infrastructure. But if they shift the budget allocated for those services, it becomes a problem. So we as PSA, we are very concerned with this crisis.
Yeah, in fact, there's growing support for the call for hospitals in particular to be ring-fenced and not subjected to these scheduled power cuts, particularly compared to the fact that we know certain politicians, where they're situated, that they are never subjected to load shedding. So that's something we will explore during the course of this evening as well. Thank you very much for that update from Lethiwe, our Durban reporter, Lethiwe Mdluli.